Testing and testing. All right, you guys ready to go? All right, so, sorry, let me clean my stuff up. Pretend like this is not my kitchen cabinet real fast. So today, I'm happy to say we have one of my really good friends, Anthony Russo, is here to talk about his Trade Hub International. He's got a fascinating story. He's a very interesting person, and he's a good friend. He's lived in Montrose since 2011. He and his wife Linda have 6 kids. She's not here, I know. Like he just said, he's got the Brady Bunch. It's a blended family. Yeah, we're lucky to have Anthony, and he's going to talk about Trade Hub. Anthony was going to read everything that was in the blurb. Let me just give you some highlights. You know what happened, you guys? I got to talking, which never really happens. But Anthony started his international career in 2003, working closely with companies across diverse industries from agriculture to industrial. In 2005, he started a hybrid trading company focused in container moves and building import-export strategies for companies entering new markets. In 2017, he began working with Region 10 and the Small Business Development Center, assisting companies throughout the Western Slope, which has now expanded to include all of Colorado and Wyoming. He served as chairman for the City of Montrose Planning Commission, which is where I got to know Anthony, and was appointed to City Council from June 2021 to April 2022. In 2022, he began working with the City of Montrose to achieve their business development goals. He's been active in supporting and promoting expansion and growth for the city while continuing to travel internationally and complete import-export projects. So, I need to tell you that my name is Phoebe Benziger. I'm one of the 4 facilitators for this forum, and along with Kathy Heavers and Barbara Bynum and Judy Ann Files, who is not here today. If you're new to the forum and you don't get our emails and you get this information through the paper, we have little cards that we'd love for you to pick it up, scan it. We want you on our email list, because guaranteed, everything may not be in your interest, but there will be something. And I also say you should come every time, because even though sometimes I don't think that's going to be too interesting, I always find it very interesting and learn something. And it's so much fun to be that person at a cocktail party that you just drop these hints and everybody goes, wow, how'd she know that? I go to the forum. I know what's going on. So you guys, thank you for coming. Thanks to new faces I see, and thanks to the faces that are here every year. Thanks to Woody, who's back there filming it. Hopefully it will be on the City of Montrose YouTube page if you want to look at this again or tell your friends about it. Thanks to Steve and the CMU who host this meeting, that we can do this every Wednesday. And as a reminder, come September, correct, September, the forum will be moving to October, but you could come and sit for an hour. October, we will be moving the forum to 9 o'clock. So we will keep giving you little reminders so you don't come and sit for an hour. But yeah, come October, the forum moves to 9 o'clock, and then it will bounce back up later when the police academy, but you don't need to know that yet. We'll keep you informed. So, without further going on, and Anthony's going to tell you some really fun stuff about Montrose. I asked if he had this in his presentation today, and he said no. He acted like, really, do they want to know that? And I said, they will love to know these questions I asked today. That also includes your A, kind of, sort of, in a roundabout way. So it's a very interesting presentation, and I would like for you guys to give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. So I was asked today to present on my company, which I don't think I've ever been asked to present on my company before, at least here at Montrose. Most of what I do is international when it comes to my company, but my company started in, as you mentioned, 2005. And I do import-export strategies for companies entering new markets. And people always ask me, well, what brought you to Montrose? It was my beautiful wife who I met here in 2008, March 26th, in a gray dress, lace top with black shoes. And I was hooked and never left. So we've been together 17 years, and I think she still doesn't know what I do. So I asked her to come this morning, and she was too busy. But the truth of the matter is that Montrose is a beautiful town that gave me the ability to do what I do abroad. I couldn't live in many places because I have to travel, but because of our airport, because of access to our airport, it has given me the ability to be here. I hit 1K status every year out of here. I've now worked and played in about 65 countries, so I've gotten around. And I was asked this morning to do this in pictures, so I have some photos for you so you can see kind of where I've been, what I've done, where I've came from. And then we'll turn this over to Montrose, where I am business development for the City of Montrose and have been since 2022. Very, very active and running around. You'll see me all over town in different businesses doing different things and really working on the side of recruitment, helping companies, and making sure that we can have that continued economic growth here in the community. So, I will continue. So, this was one of my first experiences overseas in college. I actually went to China to learn Mandarin. Didn't work out too well. I got Ni Hao Ma and Wo Ai Ni, which is hi, how are you, and I love you. Those are about the two things I knew. But we spent time here, and I put this in here because one, it's my first trip overseas, but also it was very much a cultural immersion. We went out to some smaller villages. We were able to see the locals. We were able to go through these things. And for me, coming from a small community, I say outside downtown Fort Lauderdale, but it was a smaller community, very insulated. It was a cultural melting pot, but I had very little exposure to anything international. This was a big deal for me. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just went to the world. And it really is what ignited my desire, my longing to look at, okay, what does international mean and where does it go from here? But these were the small villages out in the middle of nowhere, rice paddies, and just to see the people and how they lived and how it worked was a good jump start for me as I move forward. Because how I view business, yes, that's me with hair in college. Yeah. I miss it. But the big thing here is that when I started my company, I wanted to help people. I wanted to work with people. That's really what I wanted to do. That was my desire. When they said, "Why are you doing what you're doing?" it was because I really wanted to take the knowledge that I had accumulated and figure out a way to give it back and help folks that I'm working with. So it was beyond just buying and selling, but it was more of a partnership with those folks that I was working with. That is me in India, also with hair. This is the CNN of India. I was interviewed, and we were in the paper right behind Bill Clinton because he visited right before us. So we're here discussing how to import and export out of a zone. This is when I was with the South Carolina World Trade Center at the time, which was my first position outside of retail. So I started in retail. I was in retail management for quite a few years, and I used that knowledge to kind of move forward. And then with the South Carolina World Trade Center, I was able to really take that next step. And the World Trade Center, just so you know, that is affiliated with the Twin Towers in New York. So I did work with the World Trade Center Association, still work with the World Trade Center Association out of New York as well. This is me in Shanghai in 2005. Really where I started the idea of launching my own company. This was in September, and by November I had launched my company. And in 2006, I put this in here because it was kind of funny. This is me in Saudi Arabia. I was going over as a young man, 29 years old, not quite, well, I would say really, really green. And we were heading over to evaluate some businesses, and they say, oh, you want to meet with SABIC and Aramco? I had no idea who those companies were at the time, like sure. And I had hydrofluoric acid that I was moving at the time as well, and they needed that product. And so I was sitting down eating camel in the desert with buyers from SABIC and Aramco, and I kid you not, it was camel, and they were just throwing meat across this bowl that was probably about that wide. There was 5 of us. They were hitting their sticks on the ground while we sat there and ate and watched World Cup soccer in a deck in a desert, just like that. I did ask them whose bright idea was it to kill the ride. Like I wouldn't go to the desert and slash my tires, but yeah, I guess if you're hungry. So after that, I went into Beirut, which, and this is really one of the things I really enjoy too about what I do, is I get to go in and again see how people are living, what that culture looks like. And for me, this is no one looks at Beirut or Lebanon and sees this. What they see is what we see on the news. But it's a beautiful country. It was like the Paris of the region. I was here 4 days before, 4 days, I guess, after and then before. Hamas took the soldiers at the border in Palestine, and then Hezbollah did the same. And I actually just got out before the attack on the airport. So I would have been stuck and potentially riding a camel through the desert to go into Syria to actually get out of the country. But the thing is that these countries, these places, you get to see where the people, what it really means, and the culture is just so rich. Down there is Algeria, and what people didn't know is that this little area here is actually where Tarzan was filmed. I had no idea, your old show. This here is Paza, Algeria, which is actually one of the largest Roman ruins in the world outside of Rome, and they're jumping off of it. And yes, he's going to clear those rocks, I promise. This is Cabo, Mexico. This is the theater in Vincenza where the set is from 1620. It still exists. It's amazing. Most people don't get to see it. It's up in the north. And this is one of my favorite countries in the world, Slovenia, Ljubljana. This is the center of Ljubljana. If you ever get a chance to go there, it's about 2.5 hours outside of Venice. Absolutely gorgeous. I work with the AmCham there. And I do a lot of what I do here, I do there as well. I do business development. I work with small businesses. I go in, I do trainings. This year I'll be working with about 10 companies there. Last year I took a group of, well, I won't say it was a group, it was 2 couples that I got somehow roped into a private wine tour and actually toured them throughout Slovenia for an entire week, drinking wine, eating cheese and meats and other good foods, and getting paid to do it, which was absolutely insane. But these countries, again, we don't know where they are, we don't understand them sometimes, but some of these, it's amazing. The oldest wine vine in the world actually grows in Slovenia, 400 years old. And the roots go under the river all the way to the other side. This is Athens, where I was lucky to be able to work there for some time in the last couple of years. Well, helped Barbara find some good restaurants. Then this is Ephesus in Turkey, which is absolutely amazing. This is the Ephesus of Bible fame. And the facades are still in place. You still have the roads. You still have everything that goes there. And I get to work there. My colleagues that are there, we helped, while I was working there, is medical devices, helping children with cerebral palsy. They couldn't walk. They struggle. And so one of the things that we were working in that region was medical devices to help the children become mobile, ambulatory, where they couldn't be before. And that company actually is here in Montrose as well. A lot of people don't know they're here. And I just snuck this one in there because it's Cappadocia and I like balloons. There's no value other than that. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then it brings us here, and this is home. This is Montrose. And to me, that's the important thing, is I go out all these places, I go see everything around the world, I get to see cool things, work with great companies. I've worked with everything from cheese manufacturing equipment to cattle, slaughterhouses to, you go down the list all the way to wine, tequila. But this is home, and I get to come home to Montrose, I get to enjoy Montrose, and I get to see that on a regular basis. That's actually a picture from the day after I met my wife, as I was driving out of town and didn't realize I'd be seeing that every day again. So I think that here in Montrose, we just have a beautiful place. It's a great place to live. We can build a business. We can really have a life. And that's why I love here. And why I do what I do with business development in the city of Montrose. So people always want to say, well, you're this global business guy. You're out there doing all this crazy stuff. Yeah, but this is home. This is home. And I think it means something to everyone that you have that place where you can come back, that peaceful, serene view, and the family and the friends. And a great atmosphere to raise 6 kids, which was a lot, especially traveling. But they had some crazy trips, and they got, you should see the road trips, 6 weeks in an expedition, holy cow. 5 boys, and a daughter who bailed on us. But anyway, so I don't blame her. I don't blame her. She's like, they smell bad. So I rushed through this piece because I was told that you guys might want to know a little bit what's going on in town. So I'm going to focus a little bit more on the business development side and kind of what we have going on here. One of the questions I had was in reference to the Rathbone. So we can start with the Rathbone and kind of move through that process. How many are familiar with the story of the Rathbone, how it happened, and kind of what was going on? Yes. Somewhat, okay. So at any point, and I honestly mean this, if you want to interrupt me, raise your hand, want me to say something else, say, gosh, that's just boring, can we talk about this instead? Totally will do it. You won't throw me off, promise. So the Rathbone. The Rathbone Hotel, I remember it was in the middle of COVID when we started working on that project, which is a scary time to be working on a hotel project. Absolutely insane time, actually. And no one knew what was going to happen. And we were sitting outside. It was me, Clay, and Jay, who were the owners of the hotel. And I looked at them and I said, okay, what do you guys want me to do? We're going to turn this thing into a hotel. I said, oh. I said, all right, let's have a conversation. So we started walking it, walked both top and bottom floors. We kind of got an idea of what it was looking like. And it took a lot of time to get it to where it was. I mean, I was actively involved. And just so you know, from a business development standpoint, kind of my role is I'm the concierge for that business as they're trying to come into town. I'm the one that's going to walk them through the process. I'm going to help them if we need to go for city council, or we need to look at incentives, or we need to look at any of that stuff. I have to evaluate it, make sure it makes sense for the community, figure out what the impact is, but then also make sure that we don't lose the developer. And I'll take a step back just for a second. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to get someone to spend money. And I'm talking a lot of money. And so when we're talking some of these projects, whether it be a housing project, whether it be a business that's coming into town, these developers are laying out $25, $35, $40 million on a project in Montrose. And that's a lot of money. You know, the Rathbone was a $7.5 million project. And it was a building that needed massive work. It was really an eyesore downtown. It sat empty for over a decade. You know, what can we do with this, and how is that going to impact us, not just today, but the future? And so I have to walk these companies through that, and it's tough sometimes because I will tell you, through this process, even with the Rathbone, there were days where it got a little hairy. And there were days where they're going, maybe this is a bad decision. I'm like, no, come back. We don't want to lose you yet. But I really do think that as we went through that project in the Rathbone, you can see the results today. We had to go through it. They found structural issues in the building. There's massive structural issues, construction costs. Just to give you an idea, the quote when they first came in and got the quote for construction was about $3.5 million, and it turned out to be a $7.5 million project. That's a problem, but that was because cost of construction during COVID. That was because of a lot of the structural issues in the building. The building was going to fall apart. They had to put pilings in to make sure that the second floor could stay. So there was a lot of things that had to happen for this to convert back into a hotel, not back to a hotel. So bringing the building back to life, it takes a lot, and there was a lot of work. And when we looked at that building from an economic development standpoint, we were not just looking at that hotel. So when we talked about incentives, when we talked about the money the city was going to put into it, cleaning up the asbestos, bringing it back to historical nature, you can see it looks beautiful, the facades are gorgeous. You know, all those conversations were not just about the Rathbone. It was about, what does that mean for our downtown? That's 17 hotel rooms, that's people coming in. You know, we need to have the infrastructure to support that, which includes restaurants, which includes bars, which includes things to do, beautification of our downtown. So I don't think people look at it in a totality sometimes. We look at it as a singular project, but all the businesses downtown have seen a jump in business due to the Rathbone. You look at Ray's Corner Cafe, you go in there and have a breakfast, you go in there for lunch, usually pretty crowded. He's even crowded at dinner now. They're seeing good traffic through there, whereas he wasn't getting that before. So what the hope is as we start to bring these people here, we start to look at the advantages of having more tourism, more foot traffic in our downtown corridor, and that's really what we looked at when we talked about the Rathbone. And I think that goes for any of the projects that we're looking at downtown, whether it be the facade projects. You see all the facade work downtown that we're doing, and people have questions, well, how's that work? Well, it's a matching grant. We give $25,000 if they put $25,000 in, well, up to $25,000, so it could be a smaller amount. In a historical property, it's a little bit better match. But our goal is to beautify that area, so when people are coming down there, it's more attractive to the tourism. And remember, the city only generates money off of sales tax. That's all we get. So we need to have sales tax generation in order to continue to build roads and infrastructure and have the things that we need to do to support our community. So a lot of people think we collect property taxes and, I don't know, all kinds of weird taxes, but we don't. It's just sales tax. We blame the county and the state for everything else. But we're a sales tax generation. So when we're doing this, we're also looking at what's the sales tax implications for our community, and what does that mean for us going forward from a budgetary standpoint? What else can we do? So if I'm giving a small incentive, what does that do for us as a community? And if you look at the kitchen grants that we've given out, say for instance in Pomona Brewery, I'm sure you guys have been there, enjoyed it, always crowded, always packed. That kitchen in there was from the city. It was a $110,000 investment. And when we put it in there, we banked on it being paid back in 5 years. That's kind of the numbers that we looked at is, can we pay it back in sales tax generation, additional sales tax generation?
And restaurant tax.
And restaurant tax, yeah, in 5 years. So that's how we calculate out that number of whether or not we can support that kitchen. And so in this case, we supported the kitchen. It was paid back in right around 2 years. So these are the kind of projects that we're looking at. And that brings us to new stuff that's coming soon. I've been told that there's some interest in what's going on in the Daily Bread building, possibly. Maybe. So that building was put together, Craig Hasto and his family had bought the building. And they started the construction, the renovations, and everything else. As it began to move forward, we had a restaurant that was going in there. The city did help with the restaurant grant in that space. It was for 2 different concepts on either side. We're going to have a sit-down restaurant on one, and the other was supposed to be more of a grab-and-go type, quicker bites. The original restaurateur backed out of that project. They ended up opening up the firehouse over in Ridgeway. That was actually them. So that was, he went over that direction, and so we scrambled quickly, and lo and behold, we had a good investor. The folks that were interested in and did end up buying the City Hall building were looking to expand some of their footprint, so they came in and they took on that project. So Typhoon Hospitality will be managing that building, will own the building, and inside the building will be a Japanese steakhouse and a noodle house on the other side. That might be the first public announcement, I think, so congratulations. But they're in the process now. The food truck is going, they bought a food truck, the old Bon Thai food truck was purchased by them, and they're actually going to open up the food truck, I think, in the next month. I'd say 2 to 4 weeks. They'll be opened up at the association to start sampling the food, to start getting things going, and then once that happens, and they open the restaurant September, they're saying early September, late August. Right now the delay was really construction. It was supposed to be open in June, but construction delays are an issue. There was a door they were waiting on for I think 8 weeks. So they are looking to transition that truck out. They'll give up the business over there as far as the Asian food truck, and that'll transition back into the restaurant in September. That food truck then will turn into burgers and whatever else they want to do over at the association long term. The chef comes from Hong Kong, and so he is very seasoned. He's worked in Michelin star restaurants, so I'm hoping that will be very successful downtown, and we'll have a different upscale experience, a different type of food that we don't have right now. And that's the kind of thing that we're working on as a city, right? We want to see that growth. We want to see how we can attract the folks that are leaving, the airport and keep them here, spending a little bit more money, spending a little bit more time, and that's one of those things that we're hoping will do that. Then they can stay at the hotel downtown, maybe for a night before they leave, eat a nice meal, and then head on their way. Also, in the downtown corridor, and this is more late Q4 to early Q1, there were some delays also in the construction side. On the Demerent Square, the building that's right next to it, there will be a restaurant that's opening there as well, and a small little marketplace. And I don't have permission to tell you what kind of food yet, probably because the people that own it aren't quite sure. And But that'll be happening. It's already been leased out, and the city put that restaurant in as well. We put a pause on our restaurant program at the time because we want these restaurants to get open, be successful, and we're seeing that it's taking more time to get them going than we would like. But I think that's the nature of the beast right now, unfortunately. We're just in a situation where you can't get things done in a timely fashion. I just need 2 doors painted. I can't find it. Anyone want to do paints on my building? After this, talk to me. But it's hard to find people to do that work. And so that's one of the things that is kind of setting that back. I guess actually I'll jump back to that because you wanted me to say that on the Rathbone as well. People ask, is the Rathbone successful? And I'll just give you kind of a really quick, I guess, anecdotal comment on that. Is they've been successful enough to where they actually have expanded and purchased the St. Elmo in Ouray, and they will be opening up the Bonton again. I don't know. Right now it's not Italian. It's going to be more fare similar to what they have here. And just if you didn't know this, you should go down to the Rathbone because they do have a dinner menu too, and a fabulous burger down there. And a lot of people don't know they're serving food. So if you're around the downtown area, you want to grab a bite, they do dinner over there as well. But I think so. They're doing very, very well. They're seeing a success there. And if you try to book a room, just go in there and try to book, you'll see that the rates are pretty stinking high for Montrose. But at one point in January, our rooms here at the new Marriott, which I'll talk about in a second, and also at the Rathbone, were actually higher than the rooms in Telluride because they were struggling up there to pull guests up, but we were filling up down here, which was good. So we kept a decent occupancy rate through the season. I won't say it was at 100%, partly because there was no snow and everything was down in general, but I think it kind of maintained a steady flow, which was good. The Marriott that's over in Colorado Outdoors have been doing very, very well. The owners of the Marriott, you might have seen a recent article that there's supposed to be a groundbreaking this summer. It's going to be a little bit longer than summer, but just, again, construction. They're finalizing everything on their side, but we will see the Hampton Inn and Suites open up over there by the same owners of the Marriott Hotel. And the reason for that is, again, we're seeing success in these things. So people ask, do we need another hotel? Do we need more of these things here? Why? It's because we have a lot of traffic, and there are times where we're actually running 100% occupancy. And we have a lot of things going on in town that people aren't aware of. We have a lot of tournaments, baseball tournaments, we have wrestling tournaments, we have golf tournaments that come through town. And people are having to stay in Delta, they stay in Ridgeway, Gunnison, because there's no hotel rooms here. And when your smaller hotels are getting $250 a night, that means that we don't have enough rooms. Great for them, but we need that space. And I know that from a standpoint of the community, oh gosh, well, it means more tourists. But we're hoping that we can build the infrastructure around it to really make it a success. And that's one of the reasons why, as we're putting these hotels in, we're seeing the hotel increase. At the same time, we're trying to get these restaurants in.
Where are they putting the Greek restaurant?
Greek restaurant.
Yeah, they need a Greek restaurant.
Oh, okay. I was like, is there one I don't know about? I mean, most of that stuff comes to me. I have been pitching Greek forever. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm pitching Mediterranean. I want a German place that does just brats and pretzels and beer. I think that would be great. I mean, schnitzel. Can I try schnitzel? There's certain things that I've been trying to push, but haven't had total takers. But the Japanese one I got, and I also got the Noodle House, which was I want some dim sum. I'm like, God, I just want to get some dim sum. So I am trying to get the Greek one. We do have a Lebanese food truck that came in, and so Cedar, and they're here in town. You can follow them on Facebook. They're around, and their food is actually pretty good.
What's it called?
Cedar? Yeah, I think they're going up to the music festival, and I think they'll be up there for the summer music series, and I think will see them. I tried to put them in touch with associations. I thought it would go well there, but they have decent food. They actually have a true spit on the truck where they're taking off the spit and giving you some good gyro meat, which we didn't have. So I think we are moving in a direction to get some more diverse food choices, and that's one of the things that we are working on, because again, if we're trying to attract people to come stay, we need options. And if you look at Colorado Outdoors, Toasties is doing very, very well over there. That's Phil with the Horsefly. The daughter actually and son-in-law are running that operation over there. They've done a really good job, and they've seen, he went in there specifically because of the hotels that are coming in. So again, we see local businesses taking advantage of the opportunities as we bring in this investment. That's really part of the plan, right? We want to see the local investment and that local growth. And we can't do that based on our population. I can't have another 3 or 4 restaurants, but at the same time, as we're filling these hotel rooms, we can do that. And if you look at what Montrose has become, and we always have been, but I think we've embraced it more and more over the last, say, decade, is we are a hub. We're here for the people around the area, whether it be for Ridgeway, Ouray, Telluride. Everyone has to come down the mountain. They come do their shopping here, they come buy what they need here, they eat here. We want them to come down, feel comfortable, get what they want here, spend a lot of money so it helps us on our sales tax side, and we can build infrastructure, and then they can go home. And that's okay. And I think that's kind of what we work towards is how do we continue to embrace that hub mentality? We don't have to be necessarily the primary destination, but how do we become the destination where people want to come and stay before they go to that airport? How do we capture that business? 500,000 people passing through that airport. How do we keep them here? Spend a little money on their way up the mountain. And that's really what the goal has been, and that's why we do the things we do. And so some people will ask those questions of why we're doing what we're doing, but that's why. We're doing it because we're trying to capture that, and we're trying to grow that. And the more that we do, hopefully the more we'll see that. It was amazing to go to the Rathbone. If you went there during December, January, to see all the ski bags. People were staying at the Rathbone, and then they were going up to Telluride, or they were going up to Crested Butte. At one point, I would say we were less expensive, but I don't know if that's really the case right now. But we're hoping as we continue to cluster these hotels and we start to get that activity, it'll be great. So the Hampton will open or break ground soon. That'll be Hampton Inn and Suites, another 100 rooms over in Colorado Outdoors. And we're hoping that will bring in also further investment in the retail space over there, and then also on the restaurant space.
Well, I was just going to say the part that's really obvious, which is, so why? Because the sales tax and the restaurant tax and the lodging tax allows the city to spend money on roads and police and helping nonprofits like All Points Transit. So it isn't just about bringing tourists here. The ultimate person who benefits from that is you guys, because it gives the city a revenue stream to spend on services in town. And that's kind of obvious, but you didn't finish this.
Yes, it's there. And honestly, if you look at the lodging tax that was passed just a year ago, I mean, that was passed specifically to focus on impacted areas from the tourist industry. So we focused on the infrastructure. We wanted to make sure that we had the infrastructure to support the tourism, and that includes renovation and keeping up with some of the historic properties. How do we make sure they're here and they don't fall apart? That we looked at childcare, we looked at transportation. All these things are impacted by this. And then affordable housing. I mean, how do we get people places to live? One of the biggest hurdles that we have right now as a community is affordable housing. We know that, but to give you an idea how this works, and I think, going way off the other side now, but on the affordable housing side of things, I mean, you have to be in a situation where they come in, they talk to me. It's going to take them time, because I usually work with them up front as a developer, and I kind of walk them through the process. We bring everyone together. We have to get the land entitled. We got to make sure they can put it under contract. They'll put it under contract to buy, but they oftentimes won't purchase the land immediately. They have to have it under contract for up to a year sometimes. The reason for that is if they're going to do affordable housing, they're going to CHFA to get approval. That process can take almost 2 years. So they need to see if they can get into the cycle. So they'll put the money down, on a property, they'll hold it, they won't purchase it because they don't want to be stuck on an asset they can't use, and then they go to CHFA to get the approval on the tax credits so that they can build affordable housing because it's too expensive to build without them. So that could be a 2 to 3 year process just there. So even though we have people that are in the works right now, we have projects that are in the works right now, it's still a 3 to 5 year window before we can get that actually functioning and open for the public. So understand that when we don't talk about things, sometimes you don't hear about it. It's because all the work that has to go on in the background, and that's where it's really, really difficult. We actually had somebody at one point that wanted to build 250 units and up to 500 units of affordable housing here, and they couldn't get the CHAFA funding. And so we went through the whole process, spent a whole year working on it, only to have them not get the funding, which is difficult. And so know that we hear all these things and we're working towards it. When people ask, why aren't you putting money towards housing? Well, the city doesn't build houses. But what we do is work with folks to build those homes. And as they come in, we're working on that. It just takes time. And we need to have that housing in place for the workers so they can work at the hotels, they can work at the restaurants, which is why that lodging tax was so critical, and thankfully it passed. And that'll give us the ability to start looking at some of this. And some of that is also in land banking, where we'll purchase land through a CHAFA program. And that land banking will allow that to happen. We had a project recently that's going through that with a local not-for-profit, which is great. And you'll probably hear more about that soon, but it's still in the very early stages of development. But that'll be a very sizable project. And so I think these are the kind of things we're working towards. Going back to the Hampton, that'll open we're probably about 2 years away from the Hampton actually opening, but that'll be an additional 100-ish rooms over there, between 90 and 110, depending. We also had a project over there we're waiting on, I'm hoping, is going to break ground soon, at least on the commercial side, is 97 units of housing plus 13,000 square feet of commercial over in Colorado Outdoors. And that's going to be market rate. And I hear this all the time, and I see the comments online because I'm glutton for punishment. I like to read them. And I go in and I take a look, and what I find is that people don't understand when we say market rate, I didn't set that market rate. That market rate is set at a state level, and they say this is what market rate looks like. There's certain tax credits associated with some of that market rate, and it's a very complicated system. But the reality is that market rate is based on income, and it's based on the region, the area. So when we talk $1,500 is market rate, that's not something we say and go, oh, well, everybody can afford that. It's actually what it's set to. And so it's important to understand is that that's what it has to be to afford the building. We recently lost a project over in Colorado Outdoors. The cost of construction was $750 a square foot. Now, let me tell you what it used to be, $300 in 2019. So that's a big difference. And so that's really hurting some of that development. So some of these projects that are going, when we say, well, we need tax credits, when we need support from the state, when we need these other things to happen, that's why. It is stinking expensive. And we're talking about $35 million, $40 million projects. So when you hear about Colorado Outdoors putting in incentive packages through a tax incentive fund over there, which I know Bill has talked about in the forum before, so I won't go to details on how that works, but basically, we have to give that money to those projects or they're not happening. And if we don't take it while we have it, we're not going to get it again because people will leave. The project of 97 units at market rate that he's holding right now, hoping interest rates come down and hoping construction costs come down, but he's going to start the commercial side, so he'll break down ground on the commercial side first. But that project, it might take a little bit of time to get going because of that. Now, he's staying in Montrose because of us, the city, because of the people on the URA board. We were welcoming, we've been accommodating, we're trying to work with them. They have opportunity zone funds that have to be spent this year. And opportunity zone is basically where you put your capital gains. So this is a capital gains play for them, and if you do that, you save money on your taxes. It forgives your taxes for a period of time. But they're coming here using those funds. They have to start this year. They pulled out of every project that they were doing in Colorado except for ours. We're the only one they stayed in. And the reason being wasn't that we gave them the most incentives or the most money. It's because I call them every day and I say, hey, how you doing? Is everything all right? Saw the interest rates drop by 0.25%. Yeah, no, not quite, okay. So, but this conversation is ongoing. And because of the work that the city has done, and because of the investment that the city is making, not just in incentives, but also in time, effort, staff, we've been able to maintain and keep them here. And I think that's the background work that a lot of people don't understand or know goes on, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. There's going to be an announcement that comes out soon. I can't tell you what it is, but it's going to be a good one. But that project was on ice. I mean, it was gone. And I had to twist their arm, and I had to we got this. And we were able to make it work. But it's a lot of work because these companies, these people, these developers are investing a ton of money into a project. And they want to feel loved, they want to feel wanted, and they want, I mean, it is, it's tough. I mean, and they go, well, somebody else will take me. All right. But, you know, the thing is that we do work really hard in the background. So these things are happening, so that project should get off the ground, hopefully no later than the fall. They have to use their Opportunity Zone funds, so that'll be the commercial side first. With that will come an additional on the other side. You might have seen a River's Edge sign go up at Colorado Outdoors, and that River Edge project is going to be retail, mixed-use office space that'll run along that side there. So basically, with that 97 units, they agreed if that was approved, that the Dragoons would build on the other side. So then we'll have some more commercial. The goal is to have down the bottom, you know, like little restaurants, cafes, ice cream shop type things, maybe little markets, boutiques. And then on the top floors will be your office space. And so it should be really, really, really nice, beautiful views of the water, and continue to grow that area. And that's clustering. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is bring things together to where we're clustering these new economic zones, because it used to be that the only place in town you had anything was over on the south side. That's where everything was. So how do we really bring that economic vitality to the rest of the community? And that was part of what drove the Colorado Outdoors project and what we're doing there. Let's see, so what else we got going on? I think that's all I can actually share.
Anthony, we could stop and do questions real fast.
Sure,
How's
let's do
that?
it.
So I have a bunch of questions. In terms of Colorado Outdoors, I was glad you mentioned the Opportunity Zone, because that was originally designated a blighted area and they wrote it up in Fortune and all of that stuff. Now that it's revitalized, do the Opportunity Zone incentives still stay in place?
They do. That doesn't go away right now until the program ends. Now they've extended it at Congress before, so I don't know what that'll happen in the future, but it will remain at this time, because the goal is to continue that development. There's so much money that has to be invested into it. So if you get into an Opportunity Zone and you buy property, or you do anything you're doing with your capital gains, every dollar you spend has to be then matched by another dollar post that initial investment. So it'll continue to grow over there until it ends, the program ends.
How many acres are still available?
I don't know the answer to that question right now.
Half?
I would say we're probably about half. Yeah, I mean, I think it's about half would be good, because everything behind, so where Trattoria Sophia is in the back, there's a whole other area that hasn't been developed. It's more industrial, and so that piece has not been tapped yet.
My next thought had to do with the Russell Stover's building and the building in Colorado Outdoors that's a third done, half done. Are you involved with either of those? And if so, how are you trying to market that?
Yes. We can talk about the one in Colorado Outdoors first. It's an ongoing process. I know there's a lot of community information out there that's gone out as far as contractors, things of that nature. That's in litigation, so I can't really talk about it too much. But what I can say is this, that they're actively pursuing selling the building and continuing the construction. What it will become is not clear as of yet. It depends on who the developer is that buys it, but we've had quite a few groups come in and take it to almost sale. It's just a matter of right now, construction costs are so high, and the cost to finish the building is really what's causing the delay. Because anyone who buys it will have to invest another $23 to $25 million to get the building finished. And so the question is, what do you put in there at that price? There's only so many types of businesses that could facilitate that. So I think that's what's really the delay right now. So I'm actively working with the folks over there to try to see either A, can we find some tenants, or B, can we figure out a way to finish it? But that's an ongoing conversation. The Russell Stover's building was purchased by the Hornings. So Chuck Horning now owns that building, and we have had numerous conversations
Tell
with...
people what else he owns, they might not know.
Telski. Yeah, that's Telski up in Telluride, and probably like another half of Montrose. The part I can't touch. So anyway, the Russell Stover's building, they're currently working on that. There's some talk right now temporarily using it as storage as they start to design and figure out what they want to do with the back piece. I think for them, it's a wait and see until, again, costs come down and they can figure out how to develop that property. There has been talk of housing and other things tied to it, but at this point, everything is preliminary.
2 questions. One, what is Region 10?
Okay.
And secondly, are there any businesses in the Montrose area that have a significant international export component to their business?
Sure. So Region 10. So in the state, you have different regions. We just happen to be Region 10. And that covers, I believe, it's Gunnison,
Hinsdale, Delta,
Montrose, Delta,
Montrose.
San Miguel. So that covers this region. And what they do, they are a not-for-profit. They work grants, they work with the state, they work with the city very closely.
They're funded by
They're
all the
funded
cities
by-
and counties in that area.
They're funded by, they get funding from there. If you look at the incubator, for instance, in Olathe, there's an incubator there that's run by Region 10. It's for food trucks to go over there and cook, and then they bring their food out because you need a place to prep. And so that is run by Region 10. It actually helps facilitate a lot of our food truck business here in Montrose actually go over there to utilize that because we don't have kitchen space. And so Region 10 acts, they do elderly care, they do transportation.
Broadband.
Broadband was all them. They worked with DMEA. So they actively are working on economic development projects with the city, with the state, with the region, looking at and identifying opportunities. They also act as a loan fund for small businesses, and they can be a gap funder for small businesses that are looking for funding. So say a bank will only give you a certain amount, they can actually fill the void depending on your business plan and what you have going on. So they do a number of different things, but if you're a small business, I strongly recommend going to talk to them because they do have opportunities, and I happen to be one of the people you end up running into at some point because I work with them as well.
Anthony, anything you can say about Amazon?
First, I was pretty angry that that ran. MEDC was working on that project very closely. I think that all that starting to come out now. That property was actually owned by the MEDC, which is Montrose Economic Development, and they actually sold the property to them, and now they're putting that facility in. They've already, the groundwork has been laid for a while. The city's been working on the utility side and trying to get everything going on that piece of it, but we've been trying to keep it quiet because obviously Amazon. But the news broke. Right now it's very, very early on, but it'll be basically an end-of-the-line type of transmission station where they're distributing product into Montrose. So if you place an order, you may be able to get it same day, depending if it's something that is constantly being ordered. It'll basically service the entire region from there. There's one in Junction, we have one now here, which is great because that is a decent business, 50 jobs, so it'll be good jobs. They're not using the airport, even though it's by the airport, they are not using anything with the airport at this time. That was not part of the plan.
And Anthony, the rumor was that they bought Jetaway, but they didn't, did they?
I don't believe so, no. They bought the land that was the MEDC owned over there. There was empty plots that they purchased.
Couple of questions. With your international travels, I'm just wondering how you get over the language barriers, because you're gone to a lot of different countries with different languages. And number two, are you seeing any impacts with the tariff wars that are going on? Does that affect your
Yes.
import-export?
Absolutely. And I only have 5 minutes. So, first, I'm going to answer your question, major exporters, because I did forget that. We have exports. Actually, Mayfly sends reels overseas. I wouldn't say they're major, but they are sending some product overseas. You've got TEI. Scott Fly Rods does. We also have an Swissomatic sends. They have these little. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to see something really weird and just what the heck. They have Swiss machines from like the 1920s that made watches that are in their facility making components that you can barely see on the tip of your finger for aviation. And for the radio, it's all for all like radio lines and things that run through the planes. So it's kind of cool. So we do have quite a few companies. I think Colorado Yurt has actually shipped overseas. I wouldn't say they're a major exporter, but they've done some export sales. And so we do have that. Your question, language. Google Translate is amazing. I'm really, really animated. I will say pre-COVID, I was able to understand different bits and pieces. I couldn't communicate all the time, but I was able to pick it up. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna blame COVID because we blame everything on COVID. But now Spanish comes back pretty easily. The rest of it's like, oh God, like, go ahead, just continue. They're like, but you understood this like 2 years ago. I'm like, I know. But you know, I think a lot of what we do is relationship driven overseas. I have great relationships with everyone I work with. We find common ground. I try to keep a running joke, a running gag, a running something so we continue to laugh about it. What I find is, you know, through those relationships, communication can be solved. I got a guy in Turkey I've worked with for years that he doesn't speak a lick of English. I can understand like 2 words in Turkish. And you know, we're going back and forth and we can spend 2 or 3 days together without ever communicating in the same language. And it's just, but I think it's because it's relational. And you know, we find ways to communicate and we pick things up throughout the process. As far as duty and tariffs are concerned, holy cow. I was detained for 2.5 hours in Canada recently, so I'll tell you, that was fun. They didn't even use a glove. But it was rough. I will tell you that what I am seeing is, even though it's not just about the tariff itself, what has happened is you have this emotional piece of it as well. And so you're getting a lot of people who are pulling back. I recently had a client who said, I don't know what's going to happen, so we're going to stop buying until we can figure it out. And so the uncertainty and the chaos is part of the problem, because what business needs to thrive, regardless of cost, regardless of anything else, is certainty. You need to give someone certainty so they can invest. So going back to the City of Montrose, and that's one of the things we try to do. We try to give them certainty. I can't be perfect. I can't control the construction costs. I can't control interest rates, but we can tell you what the city can do for you, and these are the things. So giving people that certainty, I think, is a big piece. You know, the part that's going to really hurt is during COVID, we saw this with the movement of product and goods. When you stop the logistics process, it takes 2 to 3 years to reboot that. And people don't realize that on your United flight, when you fly out of wherever, it's got cargo on the bottom that's moving back and forth. That pays for some of the freight of those tickets. So ticket prices could increase. You could see, you know, just a cascading effect. You can see tourism is already down. So when you start, are they going to start reducing flights to certain regions? Do the airlines make those moves now because it's uncertainty? They don't know whether to go, not go. So I think what you're seeing, you know, is that uncertainty is probably worse than anything, because you can adjust once you see it. Now, as far as cost to people, that's going to be a real deal. I mean, that's a 20-30% increase on goods. So hopefully, in the next 30, 60 days, we have some amazing deals that are cut and we can move back to normalcy. But it is a problem right now. I'm seeing it.
So, my wife and I moved here from Maryland a year ago.
Okay.
And about 6 restaurants have opened up in that year. So, good job on that.
Well, thank you.
My question is, and I may have missed this in your opening comments, of who do you work for? Are you a consultant for the city, or explain that
Sure.
relationship, please?
So I work for my company, Trade Hub International, which I've run for years. And as a city, I'm a contract. So I am contracted to handle business development for the City of Montrose. And if you call me at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm sitting in Greece after a bottle of wine, I will pick up that phone, I promise, because that's how it works. My wife hates it. But, you know, yeah, I am under contract with the city, and it's worked out really, really well, and so that's how that's operated. And I actually give the city a lot of credit, because when I came off of city council, and I had a conversation with Bill Bell, city manager, we had talked about this while I was on council, the need for somebody to be able to act on behalf of the businesses and work with the businesses here in town and figure out not only for growth coming in, but how do we grow organically as well. And so working on that piece of it. So we had a good conversation afterwards, and I said, well, you know what, let's try it. And so we've been working really hard since then to do that. And not many communities have somebody who is business-minded, and many communities don't want somebody who's business-minded in that role because they're worried what they'll say or what they'll do, or they'll be slanted the other way, right? It's all about the business. But the reality is that we've struck that balance, which has been really, really good. And I think throughout the state, we've actually gotten a lot of credit as a city for that. Other cities are asking Bill, hey, how do we do that? What do we do to make sure that we can kind of do the same what you're doing? Because we're seeing innovation, we're seeing this speed, and that's part of it, why you've seen so many restaurants. It's the speed of which we're operating and removing the barriers to, like, why are we stopping business? Let them go, let them have certainty, let's not be the obstruction, let's give them the ability to do what they need to do.
Anthony, thank you. That was a great presentation. You guys give him a big round.